Why, hello there. I've got a question for you. Do you like tanks? How about planes? Or perhaps even warships? If you do, you've undoubtedly heard of War Thunder. You see, a few years back, I did like tanks and ships, and to a lesser degree planes, so I did hear of War Thunder. And seeing as the game is free, I got it thinking I'd play it casually from time to time. What a fool I was. Now, as the thumbnail suggests, I do think War Thunder is a good game at its core, but it certainly has some egregious flaws. In this video, I aim to highlight the most egregious of said flaws. So, lads, lasses, and thems in between, let's jump straight into it. Oh yeah, a quick disclaimer. There is another video by a fellow called Tymptra. This guy on the same topic that's undoubtedly better than this one. So you should go watch his video before you watch mine, or instead of it. But first, I'm gonna summarize what War Thunder is for those who don't know as briefly as I can. War Thunder is a military vehicle combat game released by Gaijin Entertainment in 2012, which let players take control of tanks, planes, and warships with realistic damage models that simulate all major components of your vehicle. And any damage to said components reflects on the vehicle's performance. There are thousands of unique vehicles to play with across several countries, all from the interwar era of the 1930s to the modern day. Now, to balance all of these vehicles, there is a vehicle rating system that assigns each vehicle a number that summarizes that vehicle's overall performance, called a battle rating. This system won't allow you to see another vehicle that's more than 1 BR point above or below your own. For example, the German Tiger E at a BR of 6.0 can only see other vehicles with a BR between 5.0 and 7.0. So don't worry about fighting fucking Isbrams in your BLT5s. Last thing I'm gonna mention is that there are 3 main difficulties. Arcade, for beginners and casuals, with lead and penetration indicators where most vehicles act relatively similar. Realistic for more competitive players, and the most popular option with no lead or penetration indicators where all vehicles act as close to reality as possible. And Simulator, for the middle sim players with no crutches of any kind, with no name tags for friendlies and friendly fire. For the purposes of this video, we'll be using realistic mode. Now, even all of that is a gross oversimplification of what War Thunder is, but it's good enough. Let's just get into that egregious flaw already, eh? As mentioned previously, there are 3 types of vehicles and consequently 3 main game modes. Ground battles for tanks, air battles for planes, and sea battles for ships. For the purposes of this video, we'll be ignoring sea battles. Besides, most of the community does that anyways. Now, out of these 3, I primarily play the ground mode, and I enjoy ground battles a great deal. I like how the damage model interacts with the tanks and the interesting situations that come from certain components being destroyed. Most tactics are simple enough to learn within a reasonable amount of time, but have enough depth to be mastered. Like England, which can be easily learned with the Tiger or the boxy Shermans, then mastered so you can turn any rectangular shaped vehicle into an impenetrable fortress. Most vehicles are relatively balanced, and stuff like map knowledge and knowledge on specific vehicles is rewarded, but not necessary with most vehicles. Which by that I mean is that most vehicles can be put into one of 5 categories: heavy, medium, light, tank destroyer, and SPAA, that all have general playstyles. And with the map knowledge, you don't need to know where the good spots are to do well, but it certainly helps. Now compare this to air battles. In an air battle, there's a mandatory 8-minute waiting period of climbing to get to the fight. Though, granted, this is assuming that you go for altitude in the first place. The damage system does not interact too well with the aircraft, with most damage either not really affecting the aircraft's performance, or being catastrophic enough to be a death sentence. Another thing is that the vast majority of BR brackets / tiers have at least one vehicle that is either untouchable, like the F-104, or ruins the bracket, like the JU-288C. The last thing that I'ma mention is how frustrating some of the common battle tactics are, namely energy fighting, like I'm sorry, man, but I can't be bothered to learn to calculate what aerobatic maneuver I should pull off to stall out my enemy anymore after trying to learn it for the better part of the last 2 years. And that's just one tactic. Air battles are outright infuriating to me, which has led to me yelling at my screen late in the night that I don't want to play this shit anymore. So why do I? Oh yeah, a quick side note. If you get shot down or crash for getting a kill yourself, when you get back to the hangar, you'll be met by this crew is on a mission message that won't let you fly until X amount of time has passed, which for people who suffer from a chronic skill issue, like myself, and you see this, it's an insult. And the worst thing is that it doesn't seem to serve a real purpose. If you know what the purpose for this is, please tell me in the comments. Also, this isn't unique to air battles, but it's certainly most prominent here. This is the Panzer 470V, a German tank destroyer at BR 5.7 and one of my favorite tanks in the game. For its short, its cannon is powerful, and it has good frontal armor, and its lack of side armor adds an enjoyable complexity to gameplay. Now I ask you, what would happen if the Panzer 470 fought against an F4U armed with 2,000-pound bombs? I'll tell ya, the Panzer goes. You see, there's an important element to War Thunder that I have yet to mention. Close Air Support, or CAS, which allows players to spawn aircraft in sea and ground battles for the purpose of supporting friendly units by spotting and bombing enemies, which on paper is great, but in practice is a very hard thing to balance. Now, is it well balanced in War Thunder? No. You see, most tanks aren't very fast nor stealthy, so as a CAS aircraft I can easily spot a target on the ground, and seeing how easy it is to accurately drop bombs, the ground target is effectively already dead. And it's not like it's hard to spot these tanks in a plane, especially if the target is currently fighting another tank, aka playing the game. Seeing how when a tank fires its gun it kicks up a decent amount of smoke that's very easy to spot. Plus your teammates are likely placing spotting markers and artillery on the enemy as well. Now all that's fun and games when you're getting these easy kills as a CAS player, but when you're the target, it's extremely frustrating and unfair. When you're in the middle of a battle with another tank and carefully considering your next move, then suddenly it's infuriating, and it's even worse if you get revenge bombed, which is when an enemy you've killed in a tank comes back in a plane and bombs you. Even if you know that you're being attacked, there's not much you can do. Best case scenario, you have a roof-mounted MG that can theoretically shoot down the aircraft, and even if it does, the aircraft still likely has control, and since it's already diving on you, it can drop its bombs and kill you anyway. It's not fun. Now, to counter CAS, players have the option to play a self-propelled anti-aircraft or SPAA to shoot the CAS down. The problem is that using SPAA for this is very hard, especially compared to using CAS. You see, to be effective in an SPAA, you must be able to estimate where the aircraft's going to be in a few seconds within a 3D space, then fire a cannon or cannons so that the rounds intercept the aircraft, taking into account the ballistics of your particular cannons. Trust me, it's a lot harder than it sounds. What this means is that the skill floor for SPAA is much higher than the skill ceiling for CAS, and it's also very easy as a CAS player to counter an SPAA by just staying low and fast and simply strafing the SPAA, since most SPAA are lightly armored. Of course, this isn't as much of a problem in the higher tiers of missile AA, but even then, the missiles don't work half the time, and there's still a way to counter them. On top of that, missile AA is completely useless if there aren't any aircraft, whereas gun SPA can at least damage light targets. So because SPAA is relatively ineffective at countering CAS, the only real way to counter it is to use CAS yourself to shoot down the enemy. Meaning that to remain effective, you must play and grind air battles to have an effective anti-CAS aircraft. Thus forth, you are forced to play air battles to play the other two modes. Overall, playing SPAA is like trying to find a constantly moving needle in a haystack versus playing as CAS is like hitting tanks with a cosmic shovel. So, how to fix it? Because, it would be improper of me to bitch and moan without providing a proper solution myself. Personally, I'd like to have it like night battles where you can opt out of CAS with lowered rewards, but that's never gonna happen, no matter how much I want it to. The first real solution I'm gonna propose is to increase the spawn point cost of CAS to make it more of an achievement to spawn and lower the amount of CAS per match, though this may make SPAA almost completely useless. Second solution is to make CAS spawn at the airfield instead of mid-air to combat revenge bombing. My third and final solution is to add a weather effect to some maps that adds thick fog or haze. This will help mask ground forces from aerial view and also add an extra aspect to ground battles. Unfortunately though, Gaijin doesn't seem to be planning to balance CAS anytime soon, or at all. Since CAS is so overpowered, it pushes people to buy premium aircraft like the Do 335 and the Wyvern, which is a real shame since the ground mode is great fun and the gameplay loop is so addictive, but it's shattered by CAS. Anyway, that's all I was gonna say. So, have yourself a jolly good day.